Let's start with a huge question, one that really shapes how we understand global politics. How do you actually compare different countries? I mean, really compare them, scientifically. It's this giant puzzle that some of the sharpest minds have been trying to solve for centuries, and today we're going to dive into their incredible, evolving quest for answers.
I mean, think about it. Is it even possible to objectively stack up the political system of, say, the United States against Saudi Arabia or Japan against Brazil? It kind of feels like comparing apples and oranges, right? But the attempt to do just that, to find some kind of common yardstick for these vastly different systems, well, that's a quest that started more than 2,000 years ago. And it all kicked off with one guy, the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. He wasn't just sitting around thinking deep thoughts. No, he did the work. He undertook this massive project, analyzing 158 different city-state constitutions to figure out what made them tick, what made them succeed, and what made them fail. He basically invented the entire field of comparative politics.
So why even bother? Why go through all that trouble? Well, the whole point is to get beyond the day-to-day headlines and to start seeing the deeper patterns, the hidden forces that shape our world. And that's the core mission of a field we call comparative politics. You know, the political scientist Gabriel Almond put it really well. He said the goal is to find the hidden logic, those patterns, those differences, and maybe most importantly, the cause and effect relationships that explain why some countries just seem to thrive while others don't. It's all about figuring out what really works. So, for centuries after Aristotle, political explorers, let's call them, they relied on a pretty basic set of tools. They really only had two main lenses they could use to try and make sense of the world's incredibly complex political map. And it really just boiled down to two main ideas. First, you could look at a country's past to understand its present. That's the historical approach. Or you could just study its official rulebook, its laws, its government structure, and that was the institutional approach. And each of these approaches had its superstar and its major blind spot. So the historical view, which was championed by thinkers like Alexis de Tocqueville, was fantastic for understanding how the past creates the present. But it could also be kind of biased and really slow to notice when new things were happening. Then you had the institutional view, favored by Max Weber. It was great for analyzing formal things like bureaucracies, but it was so rigid, and it often just ignored the messy human side of politics, culture and how people actually behave. And this is where it all started to fall apart. As the scholar Roy Macrotis pointed out, these methods were just too formalistic and non-comparative. What he meant was, they were way too focused on the official rules of Western governments, and they completely failed to explain how politics actually worked on the ground, especially in all the non-European nations that were becoming more and more important. And then, a global catastrophe just shattered everything. The old ways of thinking were broken. That traditional toolkit was useless, and a complete revolution was needed to build a new one. The world after 1945 was just profoundly different. You had dozens of brand new countries emerging from colonial rule, and every single one had its own unique political problems. The old Eurocentric models, they just couldn't explain this new, messy, complex reality. A revolution in thinking was